Good morning. I'd like to share with you my art progress from yesterday, but first I'm going to show you the last of the free comic books from 2018. I finished reading them last night, and I think there's some interesting things to say about style. Today is actually a bit of an unusual day because I have to leave early, and it, days like this are kind of odd because in the back of my mind for the whole day I'm thinking, oh, I'd better hurry up. I've got to leave early. But no matter how quickly or efficiently I do something, there's still that ticking clock in the back of the mind. It's just a nagging feeling. It's kind of a strange thing. Anyway, I don't have a lot to say about Relay. It appears to be a bit of an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey with our alien monoliths and the Cain and Abel story. So I'm not really going to talk about this one too much. We'll mention there's this interesting phenomenon, not just the steampunk art style, but the faux historical comic. Here we have Teddy Roosevelt in his steampunk gear, and they will have steampunk adventures. It's it's I'm not quite sure what to think about it. We can talk about that more later. I just wanted to mention that. Now, two of the free comic books this year were based on manga properties from Japan, and I must admit I am not familiar with either of these. I mean, I've heard of Pokemon, but I don't know diddly squat about Pokemon. I've heard My Hero Academia is a bit of an answer to the Marvel superhero conundrum that we see in comics, how to present a superhero universe in a new and interesting way. So maybe one day I'll read the actual manga, but for now I really have no idea what's going on in this chapter. Just a bunch of folk are fighting and making reference to things that the reader doesn't know, and pretty much the same here, except they had little creatures. Uh, I do think it's interesting that, at least in America, I think readers have been accustomed to when they see a black and white comic in a what I will broadly call a manga style, we are accustomed to reading it right to left at this point. But when we see a color comic that's broadly not in a manga style, we'll read it in the Western direction. And it's one of those things where I just open this up and I just know to read in that direction. But when I see color, there's a shift in the brain. Now, for these last three comics, I noticed a theme, and that theme is that of art style. What does art style say about the story, and what art styles are appropriate for a story? Now, for The Legend of Korra, the choice is the easiest because the art style is meant to mimic that of the television show. So, in terms of the design and broadly the colors, I would say it does that. The one interesting choice, though, is that it combines both rectangular panels and diagonal panels, which are more typical in manga, and I think it does that very nicely. The rectangular panels are very static, but when there is movement, either physical or metaphorical, could be, a conversation, we get that. So, for instance, we just have establishing shots, but when we are looking upwards, when there is, in this case, physical movement flying, we get diagonal panels, and we even have little insert panels. So I think this is a good combination of those two panel styles. And, even if you look at older American comic books, you do see a lot of zigzags. Karl Barks did that for some of his Donald Duck comics, for instance. Anyway, that's really all that I wanted to say about this. This also had a story about spring people. Now here, I think we have a more difficult question. how to present Star Wars in an art style. Now, you'll notice two things. This is meant to appeal to a younger audience, I believe, and we are meant to think of the new actor for Han Solo rather than Harrison Ford. As of the recording of this, the new film has been out for, I don't know, a few days, maybe a week, maybe less than a week, to mixed results. Now, I noticed in the back they have an advertisement for the Star Wars newspaper comics, which I never got to experience as a child, but I would be very interested in looking at them. I'm going to assume that they had more of the Marvel house style, from what I vaguely, well, I mean, from other types of properties of that time period, like the Star Trek comics, they had a more kind of the Marvel semi-realistic style, and that lends itself to a different type of story. In this case, I would imagine that these adhere closer to the style of the actual Lucas films, the original trilogy. Now it looks like we have some new DuckTale adventures, and this is obviously not Carl Barks, but they're advertising here Uncle Scrooge, Timeless Tales, Silly Symphonies, and I'm wondering whether some of these are the classic Disney comics that really had such a big influence in the comic world. And we've got My Little Pony for the Bronies. But anyway, I'm a little conflicted about a style like this because style is story. I mean, Miyazaki famously said character is story, and that's true. But the style that he chose for his films also tells us a little bit about the story. If one were to animate Spirited Away in a different style, maybe completely CGI, it would be a different film with a different tone. Anyway, this is, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the style, I'm saying this style is suitable for a certain type of story, and it's not necessarily what I associate with Star Wars. I associate Star Wars with a bit of a whimsical Flash Gordon or The Wizard of Oz in outer space, and some of that is here, but you know, we forget from the actual book, The Wizard of Oz, that there was actual peril, and of course the classic film with the Judy Garland and even the Return to Oz in the 1980s that definitely built up the peril, but while still retaining cute and whimsical elements to it. Strangers in Paradise is the last comic book for 2018's Free Comic Book Day. I am not familiar with Terry Moore's work, but I think this art style is very interesting, and it does lend itself to a different type of story. This is a very unique style, and I mean, this is just a little snippet, but it seems like a unique story, and I do like independent and different types of comics. I think the Marvel style is good. When I say Marvel style, I'm really thinking of the 70s and 80s. That was sort of it sort of crystallizes the Jack Kirby style. And I mean, this is similar, but there are also some differences. This has its own feel to it. And I very much applaud uniqueness in the comic medium. Anyway, as for my art progress, I am still working on this book. The Alien St. Patrick's Day has begun. I believe yesterday we had the beginning of the parade with the alien Piper. That's 4 arms and 3 legs and 3 eyes. Now we have banners to begin the parade. Some people carrying an effigy or kind of a token. The Grand Marshal of the parade is an alien. And now we have the soldiers who are marching. And today I'll be drawing alien soldiers, although I will have to leave early. But that's alright. This, I'm hoping to finish this project in the next month or so, because I will enter this in the state fair. And in the meanwhile, I will talk to you later. Goodbye.